Hey there everyone, I'm Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives. And today, we're going to be looking at episode 40 of the original Ben 10 series, / the first episode of season 4, Perfect Day. And don't worry, this is the real one this time. So, in this episode, Ben pretty much wakes up to, as the name of the episode implies, a perfect day. Everything is pretty much going the way he likes it. Gwen is embarrassed right off the front by falling out of bed. He actually gets a good breakfast that's not some other foreign weird food. It's actually bacon and eggs. He goes to a pizza place and has the time of his life. He gets a free sumo slammers game that fell off a truck, and to top it all off, he saves a group of cheerleaders from 6-6 and Volcanus. So it's just icing on the cake for him. Everything is just going great, and he's just having the time of his life. And even Gwen's taking his abuse with almost no complaints. So it looks like everything's fine. However, throughout the day, Ben makes notice of the Omnitrix. As the instant he wakes up, he realizes something odd is going on with it. Like, it's flashing it keeps flashing. It's scrolling through his aliens at random. Ben is just not. It's just kind of weird. Ben doesn't know what's going on. He even brings it up to Max, but Max just tells him not to worry about it. That it's probably nothing. Well, something finally does. Things start getting weirder when suddenly, as he's playing his new game that fell off a truck, Max and Gwen, another Max and Gwen appear and tell him that he needs to come with them. Something's not right, and so when the Max and Gwen Ben starts out with confront them, and they both get into a tussle. The other Max and Gwen knock them out and take Ben with them in the rust bucket. Ben starts questioning them what's going on, and they start telling him that apparently when this day actually started, it was actually not one of Ben's best days. He slammed his head on top of he slammed his head on the ceiling. His pants fell down in front of the cheerleaders rather than him saving them from an alien threat, and to make it worse, Ben was ambushed by the Forever Knights and captured. Ben, of course, has no memory of this, but before Ben and Gwen can go on to explain, they're rammed into by a Humvee, which breaks the rust bucket in two, a la Crazy Steve Batmobile. And it turns out the people that are driving the Humvees are the Special Alien Containment Team from Frame, headed by Lieutenant Steele, who now knows that Ben is a superhero, and who tells Ben that the Max and Gwen that he's with are not actually Max and Gwen, but Limax. Nice as a callback to the Permanent Retirement episode, that are apparently working for Vilgax. And to confirm this theory, Vilgax's ship comes in, and Vilgax comes down saying that he may have stopped his minions, but he's not going to stop them. So Ben goes alien to fight Vilgax, and it's a very short fight. And here's kind of a nice thing. On the DVD, there's actually a deleted scene of this fight, and apparently the fight actually went on a lot longer. It's a very epic, and it's a pretty nice fight, but you can kind of see why it was shortened, because it goes on for a little while. But anyway, at the end of the fight, Vilgax tries to trap Ben in the Null Void as revenge, but Ben is able to get the Null Void projector away from him and trap him in there. And so Steele says now encourages Ben to use it on Max and Gwen, but Max tries to convince Ben not to do it, but Gwen tells him that he's too much of an idiot to realize that Vilgax would have gotten the Omnitrix before sending Ben into the Null Void. So Ben catches on to this and uses the Null Void projector, but instead of trapping Gwen and Max in there, he sucks in the Special Alien Containment Team minus Lieutenant Steele. And so, because Gwen is right. If Vilgax planned on sending Ben to the Null Void, he would have done it after he got the Omnitrix. So Ben is able to, and so Lieutenant Steele, in a flash of light, turns into Enoch, and it turns out that the Forever Knights are behind everything, and so Enoch reveals that they were trying to keep Ben occupied and suddenly the world around them fades away into this nightmarish looking thing. Ben is about, and make matters worse, the Omnitrix times out, and so the Tennysons run away, but Enoch is there at every step, and so he creates, instead, and so as an opposite to Ben having the greatest day ever, he creates Ben's worst nightmare, which admittedly is kind of a funny move. Is actually school. It's just school. Like, it is just school. Like, it's the same building we saw in the first episode. But now it's all tinted red and all that. And it's also it's pretty much full of Ben's nightmares. Like, there's a Kevin there who's more monster than human. Cash and JT are there, except now they're just giant hulking whatevers. It's pretty much Ben. It's just pretty much Ben's worst. It's pretty much Ben's worst nightmare. And so now he's alone. Gwen and Max go on to further explain what had happened. That apparently the Forever Knights of course captured Ben because they want the Omnitrix. That's pretty much a go-to excuse that you can use for any villain in Ben 10. Because I think almost all, I think okay, not all of them, but most of them seem to have you, if they know Ben, have sometimes have tried to go after the Omnitrix, but they knew they could, but they needed to keep Ben occupied, so they put Ben in this dream machine. That would keep Ben happy and unaware of what was going on while they worked to remove the Omnitrix, which is why the Omnitrix has been acting up because of their tinkering, which I honestly don't get. But I'll get into that when I get to the complaints. But bottom line, that Max and Gwen were able to track Ben down by tracking the Omnitrix's signature, and then they tapped into the Dream Machine's frequency so that they could go in there and fish Ben out. But they're also on a time limit now. But with this new information, they're now on a time limit because once the Forever Knights get the Omnitrix, they're going to shut the Dream down, and pretty much anything that's still in the Dream is going to be wiped out with it. So if they don't get out of here before the Forever Knights get the Omnitrix, then pretty much the entire world will. Then pretty much Ben will, and pretty much all three of them are going to wind up brain dead. So that's pretty much what the rest of the episode. They're trying to find a way out. They're encountering more of Ben's horrors and just more horrors within Ben's mind, and ultimately trying to get Ben out of there. So honestly, when I was a kid, I really liked this episode, and to be fair, I still enjoy it pretty much now. But there are some plot things that kind of get on my nerves now. They get on my nerves that I never noticed before when I was a kid. Like, for starters, the Omnitrix. And it's not the fact that the Omnitrix is acting up. It's the fact that it's affecting the dream. Which, okay, you can probably say that maybe the Omnitrix is connected with Ben telepathically, but I don't really see... It doesn't really make sense that because... I can understand the Omnitrix acting up when they're working on it. They're trying to all these codes or whatever they can to get it to go nuts, and of course the Omnitrix is reacting to that. That's why it's beeping and scrolling through all Ben's aliens. But for it to be affecting the dream, kind of feels a little far fetched. Because the dream, as we've seen, is affecting everything. Affects everything, and when we see in the nightmare. Apparently the dream also extends to the Omnitrix, so the Forever Knights can affect the Omnitrix if they want and limit Ben's powers, which Enoch does. So I think they would have been. So I think they could have easily messed with the. So I think they could have easily gotten that detail where the Omnitrix isn't reacting, but and even then, if it wasn't reacting, it shouldn't be affected by what's going on in the real world because this is a dream Omnitrix. It's not the real thing. So I'm just kind of wondering why it's doing that. So I'm just kind of wondering why it's reacting to what's happening in the real world. And here's another thing that I kind of found annoying. And this was a bigger nitpick, but how did Gwen and Max know that Ben was in a dream machine? Like, how? They say they tracked Ben to the Forever Knights mansion through by tracking the Omnitrix signal. So how did they know about the dream machine? Like, did they hack into their security servers and look in? Like, was Max aware? They don't actually explain that very well. And so I'm guessing maybe they also use the servers because they said that they had their own dream machine, their own dream thing in the Rust bucket, so that they could tap into the frequency of Ben's dream. So maybe they picked up on the signal or the energy source. I don't know. It's not explained. So I don't know. That's just confused. It confuses me, and I think, and you could easily say it was explained in like the Alien Pop-Up Edition, which I never saw the whole of because I was eating dinner when that was being aired. But otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of at a loss. I have no idea that's not explained very well, and it's not explained at all. So, but I think the rest of the episode kind of makes up for it. I'm a fan of those those too good to be true storylines wherein the main hero finds himself in a world where everything's just perfect, nice, like Perchance the Dream in Batman the Animated Series. I like those kind of episodes where the hero gets everything they want, but something's not right, and it's revealed that this is just all a giant trap. I like those kinds of stories. Those are nice. They actually they're kind of nice, and I just kind of like seeing everything go wrong in a sense, because once the heroes catch on, things just get worse and worse it's just pretty much everything goes awry, and that's what happened, and it does happen here. As admittedly, because and I kind of like and I do kind of like the callbacks in that this episode makes. Like we see 6-6 in Volcanus, which it's nice seeing them again, though it's really based off of Ben's memories. I like the callback to permanent retirement with the Limax, and I like the battle with and I like seeing Vilgax, even if it's really just a dream. So that's still fun, and of course Enoch's still a very charming villain, and it's still enjoyable to watch him do this stuff, and even just acting. It's really nice. And when it comes down to the nightmare section with the school, while I will admit that it isn't really very creative with just having the school building, but now tinted red, I think it actually does. Even then, it still kind of creates a sense of unease and dread because because the school is like a giant maze. They keep turning on the halls, and it's empty. Like you see, they go past several rooms, they go across everything, and there's no one there, and it does kind of help create a sense of unease. And then when the nightmares do, and then when the and then when their opponents start appearing and things are not going right, it makes it even creepier because we see because when the Tennysons are first looking for an exit, they find a door clearly marked exit, and guarding the door is Kevin as a human. So they realize they're hiding. Ben tries to go alien, but the Forever Knights, because this is a nightmare, the Omnitrix isn't working. And then suddenly, when Kevin sees them, he just transforms bit by bit. He just transforms bit by bit into his Kevin 11, into his amalgam form, and he's a monster. He's roaring, not forming coherent sentences. He's just he's just obviously a monster. And the same goes for Cash and JT. I kind of like just seeing these two people that are apparently threats in Ben's eyes suddenly turn into actual monsters here. It's really nice. It's just, and again, it is kind of, it's really creative in that regard. So, and I think I will have to talk about, and I will have to talk about the conclusion. I'm keeping that in the plot summary for this at the moment, but I am gonna end up spoiling it, which is probably now. As they do find the exit, it turns out that Enoch hid it in Ben's gym locker. And when, of course, the bad guys capture them, it looks like everything's screwed. But Ben, of course, catches on that this is his mind; he can do what he wants, and so using it's because stream logic, which admittedly is a little bit of a stretch since this is supposed to be a world the Forever Knights are controlling, but whatever. Dream world. So Ben turns into a full-on superhero called Ultra Ben. He turns Max into Ultra Grandpa and Gwen into Ultra Rat, which is kind of a dick move, but it's whatever. So all three of them are able to take out the villains. Ben kicks Enoch out of his dream by throwing him into the sun, and Ben manages to escape. He takes on the Forever Knights, and then he takes on the Forever Knights by going alien and trapping Enoch in the dream machine. And the end of the episode is pretty much. And the end of the episode also sets up the storyline, which admittedly is not done as well as in the other seasons. Which, with the introduction of a new leader of the Forever Knights, this giant guy in gray armor that's come to be known as the Forever King. But that's another story. I'll talk about that when I get to the season finale. But otherwise, I'm okay. The finale's again iffy for how the episode goes, but otherwise it's not bad. But otherwise, I do think the episode's nice. I still like the whole good too good to be true kind of episodes. I like the design of the Nightmare World, which, while not entirely creative, still evokes a sense of dread and kind of a sense of dread and unease, which I think which it kind of consistently does. I still love Enoch as the villain. I love the Forever Knights. So pretty much, so we're kind of aside from the plot holes that I mentioned before. It's still a fine episode. It's not perfect, but it's still a fine episode for what it is, and I do still enjoy watching it. And I think that's really all I have to say for this one. Just fine episode. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we get the introduction of actually one of my favorite aliens in this series. So, yeah. Again, Samuel Johnson, thank you for watching, and I will see you then. Take care.